How's it going, guys? Mitch Cleary here with Century 21 in Peterborough, and today we're going to go over cleaning your ERV. So this is an air exchanger, and we're going to quickly cover the difference between an ERV and an HRV. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. There's other videos out there. We're going to open it up. I'm going to show you the elements and how to do the maintenance, because as you'll see, I've neglected mine. So here we go. First thing, when going to do maintenance on this ERV is to shut it off so it's not functioning and the fan's not running when you go to open this door. So I'm going to switch it off, and then I'm going to unplug it. Now I'm going to open up these latches, and it's going to let me open this door, and we're going to see inside. So most homes that are built within the decade, you're going to have some kind of air exchanger. This is introducing fresh air into the house. This is the only way that your furnace gets fresh air circulating through your home. So if you don't open windows, this is still bringing in fresh air. Now, most people are familiar with the term HRV. This is an ERV, Energy Recovery Ventilator. In short, the main difference is that this core exchanges moisture as well as heat. So the air paths crisscross in here. The air never actually exchanges, but the two pathways of this core allow the heat to transfer, and with an ERV it actually allows some of the moisture content to transfer as well. The main advantage, and the reason I decided to choose an ERV versus an HRV, is that in our climate, an HRV can extremely dry your home in the wintertime. You've got outside dry, cold air, and you've got an indoor environment that has such a large temperature gap, and it's capable of holding so much more moisture that when you're constantly bringing in outside dry air and introducing it into your home, you're really drying it out. So in the wintertime, it almost acts like a dehumidifier. It does the opposite, unfortunately, in the summertime, because it's bringing in moist air. And that's another big point about these guys, is that most people tend to think that their HRV is a dehumidifier. It's not. Depending on the time of year, it will dehumidify your home, but that's just in the winter when it's dry outside. What it does do is exchange air from outside to inside. It brings fresh air in. Anything that happens other than that is just a consequence of its use. It's not meant to affect moisture. This ERV has a different core. A lot of times the HRV cores are made of metal, and this core allows the transfer of moisture so that you can retain a bit more of your indoor moisture in the winter months. So you're not going to have such extremely dry climate inside your home, but you can still allow fresh air in. Vice versa in the summer, where it's going to help you get rid of a bit of the moisture that you're bringing in from the moist outside air. So HRVs really are a great way to go in our climate. And in terms of maintenance, the biggest thing to remember is that you do not want to wash the core of this ERV. That's absolutely critical. A lot of the product manuals for the HRVs are going to have you pulling out both pre-filters, pulling out the core, and a lot of the time you can wash all of those members, and that's what they'll suggest, is that you wash it in water, let it dry, put it back in. This is a different type of core, and you can do damage. You more than likely will do damage if you submerge it in water. So read your product manual. If you have an ERV, make sure you follow the manufacturer's specifications. And this model here in specific is a Panasonic. And the specs on it are that we are just to vacuum all the filters, including the core, which we do in place. So the reason I decided to shoot this video in the first place, guys, is I went to do the maintenance on this ERV, this air exchanger, last week, and I noticed this is the first time in a year. They suggest to do it on a more regular interval, like 6 or 3 months. And after 1 year, I want to show you what this filter looked like. So this is our inlet intake air filter. So that's outdoor air. You can feel that's cold. This right here is cold air. It's coming in, it's mixing, it's exchanging heat and moisture with this outdoor air. This is the stale air that's coming out of this side. So this is the indoor filter, which is pretty bad. We'll show you up close in a second. It's not as bad, but it's pretty bad. And here is the inlet filter, which is, I'm going to show you here. So this pre-filter from the intake air from outside is almost totally plugged off. It doesn't necessarily mean that this debris is going to be circulating through my air that's coming in, because we have a furnace filter that the air goes through first. What it means is that this is going to be starving for air, and there's going to be almost no new fresh air being introduced into the furnace system. So this is so plugged off that even though that ERV's been running, it's probably not been pulling in a lot of new air, because it's just like a vacuum that's totally plugged off, has a totally plugged filter. You know how it loses all its suction because there's no ability to transfer the air? That's the same thing. This is totally plugged. We probably haven't get a lot of fresh air here. So quickly, guys, we're gonna vacuum this core and we're gonna vacuum these filters and we're gonna put them back in. Okay guys, we're gonna vacuum this core now. We've cleaned both these pre-filters. This particular core stays in place. Some cores, depending on the model, are gonna come right out for you to vacuum all sides. We're gonna go ahead and vacuum this one. Okay, I'm gonna set this vacuum down and then we're gonna go ahead and put our pre-filters back in. This is the inlet air filter. It does have a flow direction written across the top there. They don't always, so make sure if it doesn't that you remember, just in case, which way you had the filter sitting when you pulled it out. Just make a bit of a visual marker. Okay. All right guys, that's it. All good for hopefully not another full year until I check it again, but now you see a lot of these times these get forgotten in people's homes. People change the furnace filter on a more regular interval and they don't realize that unless they're changing their air exchanger filter, that there's a good likelihood that their house is not getting enough fresh air, if it's getting any at all. And meanwhile, they have a perfectly good appliance sitting there ready to help them out with it. So that's it guys, I'm gonna close this back up and maybe go give your HRV or ERV filters a check.